It feels good to be 2-0. Washington Commanders beat the Denver Broncos, and it's time for reckoning. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the day after reckoning here on Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner, and you can find this wherever you listen to your audio podcasts and right here on YouTube. We appreciate all your support. We are on the Believe Network, so make sure you check out all the other great content the Believe Sports Network has to offer. Stoner, Washington is 2-0 for the first time since 2011.
That's hard. That's hard to fathom, Nathan, that it's been for some people that kind of take it for granted. And yeah, we're 2-0 all the time, but
no big deal.
You can't luck box your way into a 2-0 at some point. Maybe this is the year we're luck boxing into 2-0, but yeah, it's crazy it's been that long. And I got to ask, is that the year of the famous, I meant to look this up, of the famous Dan Snyder walking down the tunnel and going in Philly, in Dallas? Was that year?
I don't remember. They lost
year?
They lost to Philly and Dallas both games. I actually had it up just a moment ago because there are some strange similarities. Washington drafted at 16 that year.
Oh, really?
They
in 2011
picked up Ryan Kerrigan with their second pick. They picked a defensive lineman as well. So they went back-to-back defense in rounds 1 and 2 that year as well. We're going to have to hope that the similarities end there, as Sexy Rexy and John Beck were the quarterbacks and led Washington to only 5 wins that year. So let's hope the similarities end there for the team.
So that was definitely not, if you're saying that they only won 5 games that year, then that definitely was not the year he was yelling in Philly.
Yeah, like I said, they didn't beat. I think they might have beat Philly that year. I forgot. I like I said, I had it up because I was just like, man, it's the first time since 2011. I wanted to see like what happened that year, because 2012 we traded up to get RG3. So I was just like, 2012 wasn't, or 2011 wasn't that great of a year. So it's just like, what did they do? But for the rest of the season,
and let's not forget, they played a team from St. Louis. There's not even a team in St. Louis anymore. So that's how kind of long ago that was that they were 2-0.
They did beat their first 2 games, beating the Giants and the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, this is getting a lot of. I hope it's not the same vibes though. It's kind of scaring me.
Especially because they played the Bills that year and got spanked.
Oh yeah,
they got skunked. 0 points on the board against the Buffalo Bills. There were 35 points against the Denver Broncos, though. An absolute offensive showing, and we've got a lot to break down here in this day after reckoning. As one of those things we're going to be talking about is the screen game, because it's back.
It's back.
And it was so good. And we're going to be going over those. Hopefully the NFL doesn't smack our hands this week like they did last week. But there is plenty to talk about here. So we slept on it, Soner. This is the day after reckoning. We're going to talk about this. We had an instant reaction. Let's kind of settle down and really talk about what we thought of the game. Now that you've slept on it.
Yeah.
What did you think of the 35-33 victory over the Denver Broncos?
I've got bad news for everybody.
Uh-oh.
I've got bad news for everybody else in the NFL, because after having slept on it and rewatching the game, wow, was this offense impressive. Was Sam Howell impressive? And I originally kind of thought as I was going to sleep that I would probably give Sam Howell kind of a B-, because again, taking too many sacks, a couple of plays, the sack fumble where it could have been a disaster, but it wasn't, in certain things. But yeah, that's kind of happens over the course of the game. But you watch the whole thing and put it all together. Holy cow, Sam Howell was ultra impressive.
There, some of those 2 touchdown throws, the one to Logan Thomas and the one to Terry McLaurin, those throws were insanity.
Yeah.
Okay. And those aren't luck throws. That's not chucking the ball up deep and hoping Terry McLaurin's there. That's not, some kind of lucky throw. This is just Sam Howell and his arm talent. We knew he had arm strength. He has arm talent, Stoner. He is putting the ball into these tight spaces, and we saw it last week against Brian Robinson. He threaded the needle like 6 Arizona Cardinals were looking at that ball go by them. The Terry McLaurin one is over 3 defenders, but that ball is only catchable by Terry McLaurin. So it's not like that Dallas Cowboy interception from last year where he threw it into triple coverage.
Right.
No, he's throwing this where only Terry McLaurin's going to get it. He threw it where only Logan Thomas was going to get it.
Yep.
So,
he showed patience in a lot of plays. Now, again, he's taken too many sacks, and we'll kind of talk about that as we get into the Buffalo game throughout the week. But he's shown tremendous patience, a lot of poise. He doesn't look rattled. I know some people said there in that first quarter that he looked rattled. Well, he just wasn't playing well. Was he rattled? I don't think so. I think he was continually focused. He wasn't forcing things. I believe there was one drop, so the receivers and backs were helping him out for most of that game. The accuracy was there. He only had maybe 2 inaccurate throws. He had some good throwaways. Like I said, a B- was what I went to bed with, but after rewatching, I can't quite give him an A, but I will give him a B+. He was really, really, really good this game.
Yes, he was better than actually his counterpart there, Russell Wilson. Although Russell Wilson started off on fire with the Denver Broncos, scoring 3 touchdowns in their opening drive. That's the part that I remembered yesterday. I was just like, it felt great winning, and it was such an exciting victory. The Hail Mary shouldn't have happened, but the 2-point conversion, no good. We get to celebrate, but I just remembered last night, man, they let up 3 easy touchdowns on those opening drives. I mean, they clamped down afterwards, but those 3 is that going to be what's going to kill Washington going forward? Because this isn't unknown from a Jack Del Rio defense and giving up big plays like that, right? Like we've had that issue before, Bobby McCain not communicating with the cornerback, and then some of that happening. So
sure,
I was just like, man, I really hope they can get it fixed. But then, like you said, now that we slept on it, I'm sitting there thinking, man, this defense held them to 6 points for pretty much the rest of the game until that Hail Mary.
This was probably the most dominant 33-point defense that we've seen in a long time. They give up 33 points, and yet they dominated most of the game. The defense did. Those first 3 drives, you can't just throw them out. They happened. They were good drives. They were not aided by penalties or anything. I mean, the one was a 1-play drive, of course, the big touchdown to Sims. I already say Sims. What's his name?
Yeah, Mims.
Mims. Yeah, I always want to call him Sims. But this defense does have a problem getting started, getting going. But you have to give Del Rio / Rivera credit because they are adjusting. We've complained for years and years that these coaches don't know how to adjust, especially at halftime. Well, these coaches, and we can go back and probably look at the record, these coaches know how to adjust. But when you have to adjust, that means you've started off doing something wrong. And so the beginning of the game was a little bit
not necessarily,
tough.
but I will. Yeah, that's fair.
You're falling behind, and you're having to make adjustments to fix the mistakes or the setup or whatever it is. So they did a great job of figuring something out. And then, of course, those last 2 drives at the end where Denver's just trying to get down there and score, and you're playing a little bit of a prevent defense to try and let them use the clock, keep everything in front of you.
You have the catch that you disagreed with.
I still don't get that. That still was not a catch. The one right before the Hail Mary, where the guy caught it out of bounds, that gave him an extra 10 yards. And if Russell Wilson doesn't have that extra 10 yards, he's not getting it to the goal line. I mean, he only got it to where'd they tip it at, like the 3 or 4 yard line?
Right in front of the goal line.
Yeah, so move it 10 back. And if that guy makes that catch, they're going to stop him short of the goal line if they're 10 yards back. So I still got a problem with that. But just overall, the defense, although they gave up 33 points, this is crazy to say, they were actually pretty dominant.
That they were, and part reason why they were dominant is they returned with Chase Young. Now, we didn't really call his name early on in the game, but as the game got going, Chase Young started to make his name known, ended the game with a sack and a half, which matched his sophomore season. And he looked like the rookie defensive player of the year that we were all salivating over 3 years ago, Stoner.
Well, we've been waiting 3 years, not just for Chase Young, but we've been waiting 3 years for this defensive line filled with first-round draft picks, with 4 first-round draft picks. So that means they're all highly paid. Plus, of course, the 2 defensive tackles have got their extensions. So that's a very highly paid defensive line. We've been waiting for them to finally start dominating games. And that's what they've been doing these 2 games. And that's what Chase did in this particular game as well. He was all over the place. Montez was all over the place. Now, John Allen wasn't heard from as much, but we watched it. He was getting double teamed all the time. So that allowed Daron Payne to have single man blocking, and he was just destroying those guys. I think I looked at it, and the 2 of the offensive linemen for the Broncos had the worst, not only PFF grades, but also the most percentage of pressures in the entire league this past week. Daron Payne had the 1 series on defense where he sacked
to the
Russell
third
Wilson.
quarter.
He sacked Russell Wilson. Then he got a tackle for loss on the running back, and then he knocked down a Russell Wilson pass, 3 and out. I mean, that was just a complete domination from him. So yes, Chase was great. That whole defense, like I said, was great, but it was good to see Chase being his dominant self. I've criticized him hard, and I think it's okay to criticize him because just look at what he's done or what he hasn't done. But it's good that he shut me up and shut a lot of haters up. I don't consider myself a hater, by the way. I'm just critical.
He's just a realist. Yeah.
I'm critical. It's not hating because, again, I want him to do well.
There's certainly some fair criticism to, especially that second season where he didn't perform well. But it's nice, like I said, to have him come back. And it was a little slower than I was expecting him to be. I thought maybe he was just going to unleash himself very early on, but part of it was the Denver offense was doing a good job of manipulating the field and staying away. But as soon as they started getting behind, or Washington kind of kept, knocked them back after getting punched in the mouth, they had no answer for Chase Young. You mentioned Jonathan Allen getting double teamed. Daron Payne is a force in of himself. You're leaving a Montez Sweat and a Chase Young one-on-one, and there was plenty of times there where McGlinchey was getting pushed back into Russell Wilson's lap. Just an absolute power move. Ron Rivera talked about this, actually, how those 2, Montez Sweat and Chase Young, were having a lot of just, hey, meet at the QB type plays where and I love the brotherly love that's going on between Montez Sweat and Chase Young. The broadcast got a good clip of that where Chase Young got his sack and Montez brings him up and he's pointing at his face, and you could just tell how happy Montez Sweat is for Chase Young, because I think he needed to get that monkey off of his back. And boy, did he.
Boy, did he. You're right. He was so good. And it was just kind of reminiscent of his rookie year. And it came out of nowhere. Like the first half, he was pretty much invisible. And we even watched him specifically on a couple of plays, and the effort didn't seem to be there. But, I guess he just needed to kind of get going and get a feel for the game. He hadn't played in a game in quite a while. He just had those 4 snaps in the preseason. So it'd been a while for him. And it was just good to see him out there dominating. But man, that first half, that first quarter, I just thought we were doomed. I thought Washington was doomed from the start, and yet all the adjustments were made on both sides of the ball, and then they pretty much dominated from there on out. It was fun from that point on.
Very reminiscent of when these 2 teams faced off in the Super Bowl. Denver rushed out to a 10-point lead, but Doug Williams had other plans there. And our QB here, Sam Howell, had other plans. Eric Bieniemy, namely, was the one who brought in the screen game, which was just amazing to see. Now, there were a couple screens that looked broken up that didn't look the part, but 6 screens Stoner did the job. Like, they were just perfectly called, perfectly executed. These were getting huge chunk plays, and it's nice to see that when it's not 3rd and 20. Right, some of these were happening down in the early downs, and
they
it
were
was just
part of the offense.
It was a part of the offense. It wasn't we got to just get some yards here, and it was beautiful to see. It
was, and I think they had 7 total, but one of them was called back because of offensive pass interference. It was one of those where, and we'll show it on here, but Sam didn't like what he saw, and then he eventually threw it away, but the guys were already blocking downfield, so that makes sense. But it was a penalty, so it didn't count. But 6 for 6 for 85 yards on screenplays.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty good.
It is not just pretty good. It's pretty darn really good there.
Especially around here in Washington, where we just watched terrible screenplay for so long.
It's been so long since we've had a good screenplay here. And so I promised you that we're going to watch these here, and Stoner clipped them up for us here. Let's start with this first one.
Okay. This first one is a screenplay to Dotson, and we'll show it here in a second, but Dotson is the inside guy right here. He's the inside guy right here, and then he's going to have these 2 guys blocking for him. And when you look at it, Sam's looking at this play, he's got to be looking and saying, this is a play that's going to work, because they've got single coverage over here and just one safety. So it looks like it should work in concept. So I'm going to hit the play button here. Oh, there we go. Hit the play button. I circled the wrong guy, but it was to Dotson.
Yeah.
And for sure, Denver just bottled it.
They sniffed it out there. Notice the Curtis Samuel and Logan Thomas blocking the same guy here.
Yes, that
was part of the problem on this one, as the linebacker is able to get up there, because this ball gets in time to Jahan Dotson. And if Logan Thomas is out there blocking ahead of him,
if he's out here,
yep, then they just have to get by there. So didn't end up doing that. This was the screenplay that was just like, why is Washington so bad at screenplays? Like,
I know, that was the first one, right?
So frustrating, because it's been so long since we've had good screenplay. Here we go with Randy Gregory and company, gonna just tackle him for a loss here.
Yeah, and as good as Jahan Dotson is, he's not beating 3 guys. I mean, they've got him completely surrounded, and sure enough, it goes for -2 yards. And good play by Gregory there to come all the way from the defensive end position to take away that possible inside cut.
Sure. That
Dotson could have made, but instead, of course, he gets tackled right away for a 2-yard loss. And you're right. After that one, you're thinking, the screen game is just not going to work. All right, so the second one here is a screen to Brian Robinson that went for 21 yards.
Note, both of these 2 were on second down here. Sadiq Charles getting ahead here on the block, and it was just a big time run. Lots of open space there by Robinson. So again, look at the blocking, right? So everybody's going to allow their guy to kind of crash in. Sadiq just chips his guy and is already moving.
Yep, absolutely. This is just a one-man screen in terms of blocking. And and you're right. The key to that is, number one, is for the line to get a little bit of a block, but then allow those rushers to come in thinking they've beaten the offensive lineman. And the key is also for Sam to be patient. Don't dump that ball too quick. And he does just enough there to allow that rush to come in. Look, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys right here. One recognizes it, but he's not going to catch Brian Robinson. That's the whole key. And then you've got Sadiq Charles out here with one defender within almost 12, 13 yards between him and the first defender when he first gets it. And then Sadiq makes a great block. He beats this one potential tackler. And next thing you know, he's running free. And he gets all the way down. And there was some good downfield blocking. You see right here.
McLaurin right in front of his guy.
Doing his thing. Dotson had a good block earlier on this guy, and then it gets B-Rob all the way down for a 21-yard gain. Really, really, really impressive screen to Brian Robinson.
Third screen here, third time on second down, this time 2nd and 10. So you got 2nd and 8, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 10 here. And this is what we're talking about, Stoner. This is no longer just a, hey, we've got to move this ball a little bit on a third down and long. We're using this as a part of the offense here.
As a weapon.
Love to see it. Yes.
As a weapon instead of a grasper.
You have a lot of athletes on this team that can, if you get them in space, they're going to be hard to get down, whether or not it's their speed or in Brian Robinson's case, just that he is a bulldozer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And he's got a little bit of speed too.
Oh yeah. He's not slow, but he's not Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, or Antonio Gibson, or even Curtis Samuel speed, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So they're basically running a 4-2-5 here on a 2nd and 10. Let me turn that off. Sorry about that. And here's Curtis Samuel right here for this screen. And again, the concept, if Sam's looking at this, he says, this has got a good shot at working. If Terry can get one block and Samuel can defeat the one tackler, we got something here. And so he gets out there. Oops, sorry, I botched that one again. Samuel came from the backfield. But again, you see right here, you've got
Jahan Dotson is blocking. Yeah.
You got a block here. Curtis beat this one guy and you've got something. The pass is on time. And it's
well, even target. For those two blockers right there, right now the idea to this is keep that outside, right? Because 47 here, the linebacker for Denver isn't going to make it through those two players if Curtis Samuel turns it up the sideline. So that should be the goal there, as Jahan Dotson gets pushed back, unable to secure that outside block. And even Terry McLaurin has a hard time getting in front of his guy there, but ends up not going the distance here. Second time with a kind of a wide receiver screen that did not do the trick.
Yep.
And a large part of that was just the blocking. Like you said, the play call was right. And if Dotson and McLaurin can block to get that sideline open for Curtis Samuel, that might be a house call as fast as Curtis Samuel is.
Yep, absolutely. And the line does a good job of showing that they're running a power run to the left with B-Rob, everybody going this way. Got the whole defense kind of going this way, except for these guys do a nice job of recognizing it. But you're right. If they can hold those blocks, you might have something. Or maybe Curtis has got to cut it back in. And he committed to the outside, in which the defender did a good job.
Yeah, I definitely think the play design is to cut it to the outside there.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I mean, he could have probably cut it inside, but 42, 47 are right there for Denver. So he's probably not getting much further in that regard either. So,
yeah. So that one didn't work out as well. But now you've got a first down here. And this is a screen to Cole Turner. That's right.
This one was a good one here. Look at how many levels to this there were. And then Cole Turner getting tripped up. And then they marked it as only a 9-yard gain. And we all can see clearly that was at least a 10-yard gain.
Yeah. Here's where he hits right here across this line. They marked him a yard short of that. But anyway. But yeah, this concept is fantastic if you watch it from the beginning to where it starts. Because Cole Turner is over here on the line. You've got, I think that's Mitchell Tinsley, if I'm not mistaken.
It looks like 86, which is Mitchell Tinsley.
So he's going,
although I think it's actually 24, maybe.
No, I think that's Tinsley.
Yeah. Oh no, it is Tinsley. It's 86.
Yeah. Yep. So he's going this way. Everybody's kind of setting up over here as though it's going to be a screen to Tinsley to the right. Cole Turner's blocking. So he's acting like he's blocking. And then all of a sudden, he lets the man go and turns around. Again, the patience by Sam to be able to allow that guy to get close to him, that takes, cojones to have a 280-pound dude coming right at you and waiting, and then dumping it off to Cole Turner. And then next thing you know, he's got blocking out here. He's got one here. He's got 2 here. You got a nice seal. I believe that's Cosme there. And then next, he's got a big hole. And you got Nick Gates over here trying to find somebody to block.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody over there. And then he just gets tripped up. I think that's Singleton, their linebacker. Because if he doesn't, I don't believe there's anybody back here.
No.
And you got this block, and you've got Gates right here, and he's probably
it should have been a touchdown if he doesn't get tripped up. So not only that, so you're bringing up the first fake screen. What I love about this play design as well, if you go all the way back, is Brian Robinson, right? So it's like it looks like it's a fake handoff to Brian Robinson. And which he only it's so Sam Howell doesn't make the motion to it, but Brian Robinson does it like he is trying to run. But then the way Brian Robinson runs the rest of this looks like it's going to be a screen to Brian Robinson.
Sure.
And so the defense, and you'll see it here as this play develops a little bit, the defense ends up running towards Brian Robinson. The linebacker here is aiming for Brian Robinson, thinking it was going to come here, which opens it up the center of the field here, because those two took themselves out thinking we're going to charge down on the screen pass to Brian Robinson. Only it's dumped off to the intermediate Cole Turner, who then has, like you said, a wall of blocking ahead of him.
Look at 99 here. He's still looking at Brian Robinson on this play. And it's too late by the time he realizes that B-Rob doesn't have the ball. And then you got a nice block right here. And then, yeah, if he could have kept his feet, he'd probably scored. But still, it was only 9 yards. I wanted to write down 10 because it should have been 10. But they only gave him 9 yards.
Marked at 9, yeah.
Yeah. All right, next one. This is the one that I was trying to say earlier. I believe this is Samuel right here, and he's going to go out for the screen, and Sam doesn't throw it. I'm not sure why he doesn't throw that. Maybe because of the defenders right in his face here. But he doesn't throw it. And then by the time he rolls out and throws it, these guys are blocking downfield, and he has to throw it away. Flag comes in, couple of flags, and they get called for offensive pass interference on that. So Denver took the penalty 10 yards back, so it doesn't go into the stat sheet as an incomplete pass. But that was
Smart
just
decision
one
to throw it away. Probably a good decision not to throw it either.
Yeah, that's one of those.
Down,
He's got to know also in that play that he's going to have guys downfield blocking.
So he just runs.
He can't throw it away. He has to eat it. He has to either take a 2-yard sack, or he has to try to get a yard or 2 or something like that, because you're definitely going to get offensive pass interference on that. But yeah, so I think he didn't want to throw it because of this guy right here in his face. But if you look again, you have a good setup. You've got 2 blockers out here, and you've got Curtis Samuel, who
just has to beat one guy. Yeah.
Yep. But didn't work out. All right. The next 2 are great. All right. This next one right here that we're going to play here, this is the screen to Antonio Gibson.
On a 2nd and 14. We haven't had a 3rd down screen yet, by the way.
Yeah. Which he took all the way for 35 yards. And again, was a shoestring tackle away from taking that to the house. He almost took it to the house.
He showed his open field speed here, and I was losing my dang on mind. Antonio Gibson, this is what I envisioned for him when it comes to this offense, as he gets by number 99 here because he's fast. Sadiq Charles is out here pestering a linebacker, which allows Antonio Gibson, and then he puts a guy on his backside there.
Yep. And he's got 5 guys
cuts into the center. Cuts in the center. This is 2 Denver players who got put on skates. Bates out there giving a block, getting some extra yardage there. And then, there's the shoestring tackle.
Yep. I mean, Gibson did everything right on this play. And again, you've got 3 receivers to the right. So Denver's defense is going to slide their coverage to their left, to Denver's left, because they've got 3 threats over there. And then you come back with a screen left. And again, good job by Leno here to allow his guy to kind of come in a little bit and then lock him up. Great job, I thought, here by Gates to not get a blindside block and to just kind of shield him a little bit, because he probably makes that tackle, by the way, if Gates doesn't bump him. Who knows? And then Charles down here, way out in front, making a nice block, and then the rest is Gibby in space. This is Gibby in space. This is his specialty. Like you said, this is what he does well.
It's whose specialty?
Gibson's specialty.
I was about to say
specialty.
AG.
Sorry.
That's a Gibson play right here. He definitely earned his full name on this one. He had a great game, Antonio Gibson. Loved to see it.
And he did a great job of cutting towards the middle there, away from the defenders. He's got 5 defenders around him.
He should screenshot that and just put it up on there. Look at the two guys. Just one's like seriously on his backside. The other one is in the process of sliding and trying to change direction.
I might have to put that out.
The big guy is gonna fall down trying to make the tackle here.
Yeah.
Just oh man. Yeah.
And then that's also the right move to cut it back towards the middle, because the defender has that outside leverage, and now he sets up Bates to get that block. And if 31 doesn't get him, he probably scores. Maybe this guy.
He probably has 32 pestering him a little bit, but I mean, he picks up probably an easy 5 more yards off of that. Put it in the Louvre, right?
Yeah. And then this is the last one. This is another one to B Rob.
2nd and 8, 0 third down screens.
0. And again, this one. I mean, you look here, he should have scored.
Yes.
Just stopping the play right there with Cosme and
so he's at the 45-yard line, and you say he would score because he's got Sadiq Charles and Sam Cosme in front of him. They split.
Yeah. Let me go back to the beginning and kind of run it full here instead of stopping it. I'm supposed to do that. But yeah, so he goes out there and he's got the 2 blockers, and they crash into each other, and then Robinson gets tackled. But I mean, that was, again, another great design and great execution. They were taking advantage of Denver's aggressiveness on the defensive line, and all these blockers letting those guys crash. And it was a blitz, by the way. They got 6 guys coming in. And then next thing you know, B-Rob turns around again. Great job by Sam Howell being patient, allowing all these. If that's me back there, man, I'm throwing that as soon as I get it.
You wouldn't want the burgundy top with the white bottoms if you were back there. That would not be a white bottom at all.
Yep.
He does get hit there, but like you said, gets that pass out to Brian Robinson.
Boom.
2 things I want to note here. At the beginning of the play, I was counting up the defense. There are 8 defenders. So you mentioned the 6 coming in, and there's these 2 that are up on the wide receivers there, that means really there are only 3 guys there who potentially could stop this play had it fully developed. Now, one of the other things as we go a little bit further into this is Brian Robinson needs to show a little bit of patience as well, I think, at the end of this. This is being very nitpicky on a 21-yard gain.
Yeah, so just staying behind them.
Yes, because they end up tripping, so it doesn't matter. But if he stays a little bit behind these blocks, he can have someone block 27 and then another one block 31. But because he's rushing out, he's going to end up ahead, and he's got a 1-on-1 there at the end. Yeah. If he follows his blocks, I think he gets a little bit further, assuming those 2 don't trip. So that's very nitpicky on a 21-yard gain there.
Yeah.
My second favorite part, because the whole execution's my favorite part to this. My second favorite part is, and you didn't clip it, you cut it away. You cut away from it. Is Sam Cosme gets up from this one and looks over at Sadiq Charles like, dude,
what are you doing?
What the heck, man? Because what happens here is Sadiq Charles undercuts Cosme, and they just end up clipping their feet together.
I mean, so B-Rob had to avoid the tackle of Sadiq Charles before he had to avoid the tackle of a defender. He had to jump over Sadiq Charles. But yeah, that's I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I don't know why Sadiq decided to go behind Cosme on that. They're running side by side. Just keep going. But they did. And yeah, you're right. We're criticizing a 21-yard gain. a very impressive screen.
That's our life now, Stoner.
I know that's our life.
That's our life is we get to criticize 22-yard gains.
Yeah.
What is it like having an offense? Like, again, because this is we mentioned it several times. I'm going to hit it one more time. Okay. We have an offense that's using the screen game as kind of an offensive skill set, as a weapon, not as a, hey, we have to do this thing.
Right.
So what's it like criticizing a 21-yard gain and being like, well, we could have got 5 more yards? Because this is what Eric Bieniemy is doing. I guarantee you.
Oh yeah.
He's going to talk to those two and be like, Sadiq, what are you doing? Undercutting him. Sam, Cosme, why didn't you get ahead? Brian, why aren't you following those blocks? Be patient back there. He's going to nitpick to get from 21 yards to 27 yards.
Right.
So what's that like for you?
Well, I mean, it's nice. This is the first time in a long time that we've been able to look at tape and have to critique good plays. Normally we're tearing apart. I mean, when it was 21-3, we were like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to look at Chase Young's snaps. That's what our film session is going to be, because he's not getting it done and we want to see what's going on. And then it turns into, now after you win, you're like, let's look at something positive, and then let's critique it a little bit and how they can make it even better. So it's awfully nice to have an offense that's kind of clicking right now. Even again, last week, what did they score? 20? I can't even remember the last score. Yeah,
20-16 against.
But we saw the promise. We saw that it was there, and then this week they explode for 35. So it's nice to have an offense. We haven't had that here in a while.
Yeah. Now it's of note, we actually did criticize the lack of the short passing game last week, and where was the screen game and everything. So it's nice to see it this game. We'll see how they put it together this week against the Buffalo Bills. But before we even think to talk that, let's wrap up this here with the Washington Commanders and Denver Broncos here. Our go-goes and no-goes.
Yep.
Like I said, I always like to start with that negative so you can end on a positive. Stoner, give me your no-go for this game.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to come up with a no-go. Man, you know what? I usually think about these things, and I thought about it a little bit, but I was like, it's hard to find a heavy critique. But I'm gonna have to go with Cheeseman. I mean, Cheeseman on that first field goal anyway. I did finally get to see the all 22 view of it, of the snap that he had on the first field goal, which messed up the timing. And he dribbled it in there like he's done, like he did last week. That's 2 weeks in a row now that he's had bad snaps on field goals. Last week, they made it. This week, he missed the field goal, and you're going to blame Cheeseman. So that's the only real thing really I can come up with is Cheeseman had that bad snap, missed the field goal, and then you're just kind of like, oh, it deflates you. And maybe that had a little effect on the rest of the team, having given up a whole bunch of points after that. Who knows? But he's got to get better.
Yeah, he changed his snap for this season. I haven't heard whether or not that was on his own or through coaching, but it's not working right now for him and this kicking game. And we already kind of had a little bit of a question mark on Joey Sly because he has a big leg, but sometimes it's not as accurate as you would want.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be accurate when the timing's off. And that's one of those things that's rough, Stoner, because those three have to work over and over and over together. It's a chemistry thing. It's a timing thing. And so what do you think would be worse right now for Washington? Keeping Cheeseman in there and letting him work through the snap issue, or replacing him and having to build chemistry with a new long snapper?
Yeah, I don't ever like the idea of changing out anything to do with your special teams, your kicking, punting, snapping, and all that in the middle of a season, unless it's just catastrophic. Like last year, a lot of people were calling for Joey Sly's head. I don't like doing that because we saw what happened 2 years ago when they got rid of Dustin Hopkins in the middle of the year, and then they ended up with a guy off the street who couldn't even get it over the line. So you just have to keep working at it. He's got to keep working at it. He didn't have this problem before. I don't know what's going on with it. So just keep working at it. I don't think they should change anything out.
Okay. Nice. Mine is going to be Percy Butler. He was the safety, who was responsible for that long Mims touchdown. Like you said, there's going to be some nitpicking a little bit when it comes to these victories. And, the defense definitely struggled in those first 3 drives. Miscommunication was a part of it. It's nice to see Percy Butler get some action. He was somebody who last year we were very excited about as a rookie. Didn't really get to see him outside of special teams play. They're trusting him more and more in the defense. And if he's going to be out there, he can't give up these big pass plays to these speedy wide receivers. So I was looking and trying to see if there was, some redeeming qualities like Cody Barton. Was going to be my no-go for a large part of this, but then he actually had several really good plays that were involved.
Yeah.
So I was just like, all right. Percy Butler was a person on the field and, he did his job fine, but he also had
the big one.
He also had some miscommunication things that led for some big time Seattle plays. So Percy Butler is going to be my no-go. As we move to the go-go, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Stoner to game the system.
Right.
So I'm going to take a go-go prior to him.
All right.
So that way I can allow him to list off like 7 people before he gets to his.
Or not list 7 people.
Or not list 7 people. Mine is going to be Nick Gates, my go-go.
Okay. I like that.
One, I think the offensive line did a fair job, but I'm listing him as my go-go because of his defense of Logan Thomas. When Logan Thomas got rocked, Nick Gates was the one who got up in the defense's face and kind of really set the tone, right? Because Washington at that point, of course, they just scored, but they still didn't seem to have the fire. Like they were going to start working their way back, but Nick Gates getting into their face kind of again solidified them as a unit, as he's had other people. Sadiq Charles was there, and a couple others kind of came in as Denver was just like, no, you're not going to push our guy around. But Nick Gates wasn't having it. And I think that we really need that kind of fiery leadership in with this team to keep them motivated and going throughout the season. So great job, Nick, earning my go-go for this game against Denver. How about you, Stoner? Who are you not going to list before you do list someone?
And a quick piggyback on that also is he did it within the rules of the game too, which he didn't draw a penalty for retaliation, which that's the best way to do it. So good on him. Piggyback on that. Look, I'm not going to name the obvious, right? The guys like B-Rob and Sam Howell and Deron Payne and Forbes and all those. I'm not going to name all those guys. I'm going to name, for the first time in the history of this show, my go-go is Jamin Davis. Jamin Davis completely changed the game, the momentum, the complexion of the game. When it was 21-3, they had the ball again. Russell Wilson was running around again, and he went in there and he stripped the ball, in which none of us thought it was a fumble at the beginning. We just thought he hit the ground and the ball popped out. But he chased Russell Wilson down from behind all the way across the field and got that strip on Russell Wilson. And next thing you know, touchdown Washington. Or maybe it was a touchdown Washington, and then a field goal Washington, and then a touchdown Washington, and then touchdown. You know what I mean? He completely changed the game with that one play, with the effort and the hustle. So good on you, Jamin Davis. He's my go-go for this game.
Yeah, that closing speed on that tackle of Russell Wilson was just fantastic. That's the reason why they drafted him at 19 overall is that athleticism, that ability to get after him. So lots of praise to go around. Let us know here in the comment section or hit us up on our social media channels to let us know who your go-goes and no-goes were for this game as we move into our final thoughts. Stoner.
Yep. All right. My final thought is this. Please don't take this as being negative, but my final thought is that for 2 weeks, this team has kind of gotten lucky. And they've gotten lucky because the other team is beating themselves. Denver beat themselves. Denver, I don't know. I haven't heard anything from Denver. I haven't seen anything. but they beat themselves. Dumb penalties on defense, dumb penalties on offense, holding calls, all kinds of stuff that they were doing wrong. They couldn't get their offense going in the second half. We got a call on the non-pass interference on the 2-point conversion to try and tie the game. So a lot of things went Washington's way because Denver didn't do things right. That's what bad teams do. That's what Arizona did as well. They made a lot of dumb mistakes that cost them dearly. How many times did Washington drives get extended because of penalties, and then Washington ends up scoring on certain plays? We saw it at least 2 times. They were huge penalties. So I want to caution our want to be, this is a Super Bowl team. I want to caution that the 2 teams they've beaten are 0-2, and they don't look very good in either of their games. Those 4 games, they haven't looked good.
Mm-hmm.
Now the big boys are coming to town, right? The Bills are coming. Then you got the Eagles. Then you got the Bears. Then you got the Falcons, who are 2-0. And so you're starting to, it's going to get real. So just temper our enthusiasm a little bit, and let's make sure that we're still supporting the guys and hoping to win, but let's not get carried away. It's not negative. I'm saying just
keep that same energy, though.
Keep the same energy.
That's the thing is there's a lot of things to be excited about here with our 100%. Washington Commanders. I'm wearing a onesie, back-to-back weeks here on our day after reckoning because they won. My final thought is we have a QB. Maybe it's too early to be the QB of the future or a franchise QB just 3 starts into his career. But we have a QB stoner,
man,
that can make the throws needed at the NFL level.
100%.
Yes, there's things to work on. We'll talk about the sacks probably later this week. But when he gets the time to throw the ball, he is zipping it in there. He's putting it where his wide receivers can catch it, and only his wide receivers can catch it. Mm-hmm. He has opened up the field from throwing deep. I believe the broadcast had shared that next gen stats where his deep throwing was just superior and accurate. Mm-hmm. And so he's opened up the deep. He can throw those short passes. He gives some offense, some mobility with his feet. He doesn't have to run it. There might be a designed run here or there. He's not like a Lamar Jackson, but he doesn't need to be. He does not even have to be Daniel Jones. But he offers enough mobility that at least he can move out of that pocket. And I just enjoy watching him develop. And he's doing well here in the early set. And as defenses and coaches get a little bit more tape on him, Eric Bieniemy, being his offensive coordinator, is going to do wonders for him and mixing things up and keeping him comfortable. And that's Sam Howell's MO. Nothing seems to faze him. His teammates all say that. So I don't understand how anyone can be like, oh, he looks rattled back there after that first quarter. He looked the same as when they were up.
He did.
You know, he is just so even keeled, and he outside of the size, you know, he's a little bit short. Outside the size, he looks the part of an NFL QB. And Washington got themselves a gem in the 5th round. If he can even just be, again, all we asked for here in Washington was a mid-tier QB, and he looks like he's going to be that and maybe even more.
And here's a good stat for you, Nathan. Do you know who led the league last year in turnover-worthy throws?
Who?
The pylon diver, right? I'm not going to say his name. I don't want to lose $1. He led the entire NFL in turnover-worthy throws. Do you know how many turnover-worthy throws Sam Howell had yesterday?
Throws?
Yeah.
None. One?
Zero.
Yeah.
He had 0 turnover-worthy throws. None of his passes had a chance to be turned over, intercepted. None. Not a single one. And how many times did he throw? I don't even remember now what his final numbers
It's
were.
like north
35, 37.
Yeah, it was north of 35. It was a lot.
Yeah, so
he had one turnover worthy play is what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about throws.
Sacked. But yeah, throws is he's just so accurate. Yeah. Look at those touchdown passes again. Do yourself a favor.
Go
watch the highlights. And I mean, just those throws were magnificent.
Yep.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed this day after reckoning here on Ref the District. Make sure if you're here on YouTube that you hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on audio, make sure that you get that to auto downloads because we provide you content every day of the week here in the NFL season for the Washington Commanders. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner. We are Ref the District. And until next time.
2-0, baby. Let's go for 3.
Be a fan.
Here we go.